Hello, hi, and welcome to another episode of The Emma Gunn Show and a midweek instalment of Bullet Points. What will we discuss this week? Now, you might have been eagle-eared and noticed there wasn't a Bullet Points last week. It all got a bit much. I was a bit busy and I didn't get around to sitting down and really thinking about a few things that I wanted to talk about. And one of them was actually something I thought, maybe the moment has passed, because I should have jumped on this last week, as pretty much everyone did. But I thought I would discuss it in the context that I wanted to discuss it in. If you are in the UK, you almost certainly picked up on this, but it was Rylan Clark, who is an absolutely brilliant television presenter. I mean, he is television gold and has been since he first graced our screens in various reality shows, but he's a really great TV presenter. He was on this morning and he was talking about immigration, and he was talking about what the general public feel is happening in terms of illegal immigration. Lots of terms were used, but potentially incorrectly. I just want to say this, I think his intention was good. I think his intention was to open a topic in a way that would lead somewhere. But phrases or terms were used interchangeably that mean different things. And it wasn't meant to be political. And then the Labour Party was mentioned. But what it really captured was the fact that there is this idea here in the UK that a lot of people feel very strongly about. And it is that we are offering really wonderful situations to people who come to the UK on dinghies. They cross the channel. They are given iPads and phones, 4 to 5 star accommodation and easy access to the NHS, which irks a lot of people because times have never been as hard. And particularly when it comes to something like access to the NHS, I think a lot of people, particularly our elderly community and population, probably feel a little bit forgotten and a little bit frightened by being forgotten by an NHS that doesn't seem to have capacity for everybody. Anyway, I didn't want to dig into what he said necessarily, why he said it, and the sort of repercussions of that. I just wanted to talk about the way in which we get our news, which is something that I've spoken about before. And what this really did for me was highlight something that I think is worth discussing and just bearing in mind. And that is that even though what Rylan said may have had inaccuracies within it, I think what it demonstrated was that there are a lot of people who believe these things to be true, believe that they believe what they see on Facebook, they believe what they see on social media, and they do not have an appropriate news source that is actually telling them what is the case. So yes, in some instances, in the case of an emergency, a phone is given. It's not just that you get to your hotel room and on your bed there's like in Apple packaging in an Apple bag, welcome to the UK, here's an iPad and here's a phone. These aren't the most luxurious of things. Anyway, and what really struck me was, okay, this would have been a brilliant opportunity for the government to say, this was talked about on national television, on prime time, daytime TV. Now, wouldn't this have been wonderful for somebody to go on the next day and say, hey, we're really glad that you brought this subject up. And it's really brilliant, actually, that you have flagged that a lot of people think this way, because if that's the case, we need to correct that pronto. We need to correct that immediately. Someone from the government, potentially even Keir Starmer, although when was the last time anyone saw him, go on and say, this is actually what the situation is. And why are we being fed this constant narrative? And why is our focus being put so much on this particular thing, when actually, when you look at the grand scheme of things, it isn't the biggest problem facing the country and the population right now, but it is the one that is getting the most airtime, and that also is the thing that gets people the most passionate. I went on to TikTok the other day and I deliberately skewed my algorithm by searching to see what people might be seeing if they believed what Rylan had said was to be 100% accurate. And it gets really frightening. It's not long before you get to videos of people rounding on young men, of people just screaming in the street and saying things that, look, I'm not saying that there aren't elements of truth in certain things, but I'm just saying that the depth of feeling, the way that people are acting out, I don't know if it came from a place of, yes, you have all of the facts, you could say, okay, but the worrying thing is that not everybody has the facts, which brings me back to what I was saying. How do you get your news? And I said on this podcast the other day, I have stopped putting my television on in the morning because all I was getting was rubbish, to be honest. And I hate to say that. I really, really hate to say that. It's not that it's rubbish. It was rubbish for me. If you think about the things that you consume, whether it's in your diet or through your eyes or by what you read and what you watch and what you listen to through your ears, if you think about that as your diet, I just realized that the morning news, as much as it might seem like, great, I am informed and I know what's going on, actually, it's not particularly nutritionally dense news. It is designed to capture my attention, to make me stay watching the show for longer. It is designed to pit two opposing voices against each other in live TV debates that is like watching a fight or a disagreement in an office. I just decided not to, and I am much happier for it. But where am I getting my news? And that's really what I want to bring this back to, because actually I listen to the same rotation of news podcasts every single week. And I feel that since I have been doing that, I feel much better informed. I feel much more confident in sharing my opinion because none of my sentences start with apparently or, oh, I heard. They start with, well, in the House of Commons, this happened, or this politician did this. And so it comes from a place that's slightly more robust when it comes to fact. But I listened to the news agents and they did a really nice, they talked about the Rylan monologue. They talked about how much weight that carries in sort of the normal everyday person's mind and how damaging it was for people now to think, oh gosh, that's now fact. And that was when I was thinking, why isn't somebody just being given the opportunity or asking for the opportunity to say, can we put this straight? Can we actually tell you what's happening? Can we actually tell you the situation with phones? Can we actually tell you the situation with how you should describe people versus legal asylum seekers, illegal, like all of those sorts of things. I don't understand why that opportunity wasn't taken up, because you can be damn sure in a corporate setting that would be done immediately. HR would be like, oh, there was a bit of a snafu downstairs on floor 3, so you're going to have to go down today and do one of those talks where you go through the basics. Why wasn't that done? Because it's happening in corporate, so why isn't it happening in the world at large? Anyway, that was something that I wanted to talk about. So the news agents, I think, is a really good source for news. I also really like The Rest is Politics. I haven't actually listened to it much recently because it's very much focused on stateside politics, which could be getting quite interesting soon if the stuff about Trump's health is to be believed. But Breaking Points, again, really good to engage with on YouTube. That is a great source for news. And I don't know, I've just found that any news that comes from the television or from the newspaper, I've got to be honest, I'm sort of swerving it now. I would much rather listen to a couple of people, or like Emily Maitlis, John Sopel, Lewis. Lewis has the confidence of a man who's never been told to shut up. Sometimes, maybe he has, I don't know. But sometimes I think, wowzers, you are confident. Maybe I'm projecting onto him, but anyway, I think that they're really good, and I think that the fact that they have these positions within the political landscape where they are close to the information, they have good sources, makes me feel like I am actually, the news that I am taking in from them, albeit will have be skewed by their opinions at times, a lot of it is really nutritionally dense, sound information that is reporting from Westminster, which feels like a really good thing to do. So that is the first thing that I wanted to say. And have you felt the same? If you're in the UK, did you see what Rylan said and think, or did you think, yes, about time someone said it? What were your feelings about this sort of thing? Because it's been leveraged really, it's been leveraged quite hard by the people who want everybody to be dissatisfied and to want to get rid of the government and get new people in. But what can they actually deliver? I do not know. But did you have a feeling about it? And if you aren't in the UK, is this something that you're seeing where you are as well, where you just think, actually, I have to really work hard to get good information now? Or maybe it's because we all live in a land of conspiracies where now we think everything is a conspiracy. How do you feel? Let me know. You know how you can get in touch. You can comment under this video. You can comment on the Substack. You can DM me on Instagram where I'm at Emma Guns. You can email me office@emmaguns.com, and I would love to hear from you about this. Okay, and in a slightly more frivolous note, well, not so much frivolous, but I wanted to talk about it because I have been sharing on my Instagram stories recently my huge bowls of food. I like to make a big salad. I like to make big cereals, big breakfast bowls. And the reason that I've spoken about here and I've spoken about on my Instagram is because volume eating really works for me. I am in recovery from binge eating disorder. I can very easily overeat. And if I'm not eating in the right way, i.e. filling myself up with nutritious food, and I do mean, I use those words carefully, filling myself up, I will start snacking and snuffling around the kitchen, and things will get eaten that shouldn't get eaten. Shouldn't get eaten based on the goals that I have, I hasten to say. So I realised about 3 or 4 weeks ago that in my effort to lose the 10 pounds, I was hitting my macros but with a really small amount of food. And that couldn't necessarily be sustained long term, and also it was just getting a little bit like, I don't know as if this is great for you, Emma. It was, like I said, I was eating enough calories, I was hitting my macros, but I was not eating as much as maybe I could have. And I thought, this is crazy. So I started making these big bowls of food again. So 400 calorie breakfast bowls filled with yogurt, protein powder, fresh fruit, and some nuts or some flaxseed. And I've been putting them on my Instagram stories. And there have been, and I don't think these people are trolls, I think they're just genuinely shocked by it. But I have had quite a few comments from people saying, is that how much you eat? I couldn't even do half of that. I couldn't even do a quarter of that. Or is that really one meal? And the reason I bring it up is because it strikes me as being quite judgmental. And it sort of made me think, okay, this is why women have problems around food. Like, we can blame the patriarchy, we can blame a lot, but we can also blame each other, I think. And Polly Vernon wrote a brilliant piece about Serena Williams advertising and taking a GLP-1, and actually one of the biggest things is other people's reactions to it and how people are judgmental. And what I find quite interesting is that every time I go out, like I was having drinks with Claire Coleman and Nadine Baggett the other night, and we were talking about weight and weight loss, and just saying how I think Nadine might have said something along the lines of, the majority of people agree with you when it comes to your weight loss, Emma, but there's a lot of people who want to believe something else. Like, because I was talking about the fact that I wrote a piece for the Times, and it didn't get, like, the comments were pretty like, yeah, this seems to make sense. And the whole point of writing things in this day and age is you want to polarize opinion a little bit. And Nadine made the point, because I think fundamentally people agree with you, like, calories in, calories out, like, exercise, eat well, eat nutritionally dense food, and don't overdo it. And you fundamentally know what to do. And so that's not really polarizing. But there are other content creators, because I was saying, other people get like huge amounts of interaction. And it's just funny that the big bowls of food, like I sort of put them next to my head sometimes, like, eat a salad as big as your head, is the thing that seems to make people want to comment in a way that I think, well, that's a thought. So, for example, if I put a picture up on my stories with my salad and it's next to my head and it's the size of my head, somebody, more than one person, will come in and say, that's too much food, how can you eat that much food? I could never eat that much food. So it's a projection, isn't it? This is my relationship with food, yours is different, and I need to point it out in a way where I feel better about myself for pointing it out. It's very, very strange. And like I said, Polly wrote this brilliant piece about Serena Williams and just about the judgment that we all have. And I have talked about it. I wrote a whole piece about, am I an idiot for not taking Ozempic? Because I see other people losing weight and it looks really easy. And I see how comfortable and confident they seem, and yet I'm still like making choices and choosing not to go over my calorie deficit, and it's hard, and some nights I have to sit on my hands, and some nights I have to like really think about, what are you doing this for? Why are you doing this? Like, why do you want to have protein so much? Why do you want to have lean muscle mass? Like, I have to go through it all again rather than just let something else do the thinking for me. And that in itself is a little bit judgmental on my part of other people, although I have spoken at length about how great I think those drugs are. But it's just so funny to me that you put up these pictures of you enjoying a big bowl of food and it's triggering, and it creates a need in somebody else to point out that it's a lot of food and that they could not consume that much. And look, tone is obviously a very strange thing in the written word, particularly in messages and emails and things like that. But there is judgment. There is judgment, and there is a want to sort of put it down. But I come back to the fact that volume eating is absolutely great. If you are someone like me who struggles with food and you always feel like you could eat something, then you want to find a way to eat something that is huge in volume and takes a long time to eat, so that your brain and body finally get the message that it doesn't need to think about food for a little bit. Because I can honestly tell you, food noise, thinking about food, whatever you want to call it, it can take up a huge amount of mental and emotional real estate. But if I shove 400 calories into my body in the morning, and it's chia seeds, and it's 0% fat yogurt, and it's protein powder, and it's like 200 grams of fresh fruit, my brain goes, okay, fine, we get the message. Fine. We won't think about food till like after lunch, okay? And I'm like, yeah, deal, finally. So it really, really works for me. But I see that it's just interesting that it just doesn't work for other people. So it's just funny that we comment on these things with each other, isn't it? So what I'll do is I'll put the link to that piece by Polly Vernon, because she talks about it in far greater detail and with far more panache than I have here. But let me know if you feel the same, if you think that you see or feel that judgment when it comes to food choices, even food volume, which I think is absolutely fascinating. Generally the messages that I've had that have said that's a lot of food, is that really one meal? You can tell that in that person's life, being somebody who eats tiny portions is obviously the thing that they've aspired to, or the thing that they thought was normal. And so to see somebody doing something completely opposite is just knocks them off their center of gravity enough to make them have to say something, because maybe like saying something to me makes them feel a little bit more secure in their choices. Who knows? I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's very, very interesting. And that's why I wanted to chat about it with you in this episode of Bullet Points. So get in touch with me. Like I said, under this video, you can comment on the Substack if you are discovering this through Substack. You can email me, office@emmaguns.com, or you can DM me on Instagram, where I am @emmaguns, and I would genuinely love to hear from you. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you on the next one.